What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of news about Mass Effect Andromeda. And today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about the story of Mass Effect Andromeda and some of the details that I was able to get from the initial offerings they gave us on N7 Day. If you guys are part of the Andromeda initiative over on the MassEffect.com website, you actually can go in and see quite a few details about the background and story of Mass Effect Andromeda, despite the trailer not really revealing a whole lot about it. But we're mostly going to talk about today is going to be sort of the lead into Andromeda, what's going on within the Mass Effect universe before the mission leaves. And I'm going to talk also about how it's really not that connected with what happens in the original Mass Effect trilogy, which kind of bums me out just a little bit. Now, originally there was a leak about a year or so ago where they were talking about how Andromeda was sort of linked to Mass Effect 3 and took place during Mass Effect 3, and that the ARC project was sort of this escape from the Reapers that they had discovered, and they had figured out something within the Prothean data they found on Mars, and all the species came together to build these ARCs to sort of be a contingency plan in case the Reaper War was lost. Well, after looking through the initiation website and some of the briefing materials that were in there, that is not the case whatsoever. The story actually does not appear to be that connected with the original Mass Effect trilogy at all, and it's really kind of interesting. Now, the whole premise behind the Andromeda mission is basically there's this guy named Ryder, and you're going to be playing his son or daughter as the Pathfinder. But Ryder was apparently an initial Pathfinder. He was actually a character who went through the first mass relay that humanity found, which was the Charon relay out near Pluto, which people had thought was disguised as a moon. And after they found the Prothean data cache on Mars, the humans were able to find the first mass relay in their system and basically go out and explore the galaxy and find this larger galactic community. Now, Ryder was one of the first people on that mission, and then he went on to become an N7, and so he was chosen to be the first Pathfinder for the Andromeda mission. Now, the interesting thing about the Andromeda mission is that it's actually, according to the information that's on the website that I found, it's actually a civilian-created private project. It's nothing to do with the Systems Alliance. It's nothing to do with any of the other races in the game. It is basically just a civilian project with large benefactors, multiple races and species across the galaxy. And their main goal is basically to go explore. And they somehow have mapped out and found some planets in the Andromeda system that are rich with resources. And their whole idea behind it is to go there and find these resources and then somehow set up a pathway between the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy. Which I think, good luck with that, considering it's going to take 600 years in the first place just to get there. That won't really be a very, really good trade route or whatever they want to call it. But that is pretty much the premise behind the story. And it actually takes place, it starts about 20 years after humans are accepted into the galactic community and are allowed to establish an embassy on the Citadel. So this actually puts it somewhere in the middle of Mass Effect 2 if you're talking about the official timeline for the Mass Effect lore in general. So the Andromeda, actually this is when they are going to be leaving. So the ARCs leave during the events of Mass Effect 2. So this is really before anyone really knows much about the Reapers. This is while Shepard is kind of a rogue working for Cerberus. And basically this kind of disconnects it from almost anything that goes on during the trilogy. Now the journey is going to take them 600 years. To get to Andromeda. So, as I mentioned before, they're leaving well before the Reapers ever arrive. They're not even going to know that the Reapers arrive. It's possible Ryder or someone might have some knowledge of it, because I'm sure the Alliance and the N7s possibly might know what Shepard had discovered already leading into Mass Effect 2, but we don't know for sure. So, chances are they're probably going to get to Andromeda. By the time they get there, the Reaper War will have been long over. Win or lose for the humans and the rest of the races and species in the galaxy, they're probably, I don't know if they're going to touch on that, if they're going to talk about any of that, but it's possible that no one's really even going to remember the Andromeda mission after all that happens. If anyone's left, if they lose or if they win, will people remember that this mission actually took place? So I find that kind of interesting that they decided to go with that route. mainly because I don't like the fact that it seems they're just going to leave behind everything that already happened within the Mass Effect universe. And I know they wanted to start over fresh and new with a different kind of story. They didn't want to do it with Shepard, and that's fine. They could have easily done that while still honoring what came in the past games. I think it's kind of crazy they're going to make a game that exists in the Mass Effect universe, and we're just going to ignore all the major events that happened in those 3 games, especially with them starting the timeline of Andromeda just so early in the actual Mass Effect trilogy timeline. So anyways, that pretty much debunks the ARC theory. And after seeing some of the initial information on N7 Day yesterday, where they were talking about it was, they left and it was a 600-year journey, and they made all these arcs. And 2 of the arcs, I believe, are human arcs. The other 2 are sort of mixed races, which is how they're going to get all the different characters. You'll have, in the trailer, we did see Solarians. I believe there were Asari. I don't remember seeing Turians or Krogan, but I could be wrong. I haven't rewatched it really in slow motion or anything. But my initial thoughts on seeing that and seeing the initial information was it was kind of an evacuation or preservation type mission. They knew the Reapers were coming, so they decided to leave. Because when I first saw the Andromeda Initiative trailer, I knew that it had to take place before Mass Effect 3 because they were still standing on the moon. They were still standing outside of Earth. The arcs were being built right outside the moon. So that meant that nothing had happened yet. And that meant it couldn't take place during Mass Effect 3 because obviously right at the start of Mass Effect 3, the Reapers arrive en masse at Earth and just start laying waste to everything. So I kind of had an idea at that point that the ARC theory was going to be debunked. And I don't know, I was kind of sad about that because I actually did like the ARC theory because it was a good way to tie it into what had already happened within the games while at the same time allowing Andromeda to stand on its own and be its own story. So this new story seems like, we'll see what actually happens in the game. Obviously, we haven't played the game yet. We don't know what kind of story is going to be in the game. So hopefully it's good. Hopefully they write a decent story for Andromeda that stands on its own, and leaving out some of the other stuff from Mass Effect is not going to hurt it too much. But I have some concerns also about how the new game is going to play. I'm going to cover that in a different video based on some of the conversations some of the developers were having about things that they're changing within the gameplay structure. But overall, I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what the initial connection will be between the Mass Effect universe and Andromeda. As you can see now, it is not nearly going to be as connected as we thought it might be. And it's kind of an interesting way for them to start things during the events. Sort of about halfway, I'm guessing, between Mass Effect 2, judged on the year that the arcs actually wind up leaving the Milky Way galaxy. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We're supposedly going to get more information on the story and everything else in December at the next major game show. I'm still waiting on the book Mass Effect Andromeda. I believe Initiation was the title of the first book. I can't remember at this point, but it was supposed to be out in August. Many thought it might be pushed back to November when N7 Day was announced, but we still don't have any news on it. And originally they said that book was going to connect Mass Effect 3 to Andromeda. That's what they were talking about in the initial article where they were talking about the books coming out, but obviously now I don't think that's the case. But if you guys haven't signed up for the initiative page at the MassEffect.com website, I suggest you do it because there's actually quite a bit of interesting information there. You can watch some videos and learn about some of the equipment that's going to be used in the game. And that's actually where I got most of these initial story details from, was actually reading through the briefings on that site because they talk about the ARC project and when it takes place and everything. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about the initial story leading into Andromeda. Are you excited for something completely new and something that doesn't seem to bring in any of the Mass Effect trilogy lore or anything? Or is that something that, like me, has kind of bummed you out a little bit and you're not quite as excited as you used to be for this game? Because that's kind of my feeling right now after seeing all the trailers and everything, the new stuff yesterday, is I'm not as hyped as I was and not quite as excited. And a lot of that has to do with what some of the developers were talking about with Andromeda. And like I said, I'll be covering that in a different video. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of brief discussion of the new story details on Mass Effect Andromeda. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again next time.